Welcome everyone. Today is Giving Tuesday and I have the privilege and honor of speaking to the UN Foundation Senior Director, Ms. Chrysula Winegar. And today we're going to be having a conversation around the role that partnerships play in the Sustainable Development Goals. So welcome to the Hub.
Thank you for having me. This is fantastic.
Of course. So for people who don't know what the Sustainable Development Goals are, could you just give us a quick one sentence, compact, what are they about, and in particular, what is Goal 17 about?
The Sustainable Development Goals are about people and planet. So they are about all 7+ billion of us, and they are about all 193 countries who are part of the UN membership system. And they are about really big, hairy goals, ending poverty on this planet, tackling climate change, and making sure that there's equality and peace and security for all.
Amazing. So can you just quickly tell us a little bit about what your role is in all of that and where you fit in?
So the United Nations Foundation is a private foundation that sits to the side of the United Nations. We like to call ourselves the UN's BFF. We are there to support the work of the UN, particularly here in the United States, but also through programs that we run around the world. And we are an advocate, a champion, a cheerleader for the Sustainable Development Goals and do everything that we can to support the UN and the member states in implementing those Sustainable Development Goals, which we often call SDGs. Sorry for an acronym, but if you hear me say that, it stands for Sustainable Development Goals.
Amazing. And then, so within that framework, there's 17 goals, and you work around Goal 17 a lot, which is around partnerships. So can you talk a little bit about what the role of that goal is, separate from the other 16 goals, which are specific destinations, versus 17, which is more of a mode?
Well, the partnerships goal, Goal 17, really is the thing that makes all of the other goals possible, because none of these goals can be achieved by one country alone, by one city alone, by one organization alone. And partnerships are where we all come together. So it's governments, and that's both at a local, state, federal level. It's civil society. So civil society means, first of all, you and me, ordinary citizens, and in our private lives getting involved. Secondly, it's things like faith-based organizations. So our churches, the places of worship getting involved. It's non-profit organizations, non-governmental organizations. And then it's also, I've already alluded to the business sector and business leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, solution makers. So there's a role for each one of us in these goals, and the way that we bring all of our skill sets and our talents together on behalf of the SDGs is through that partnerships module.
Amazing. Could you give us an example of, what one of those partnerships might look like? You had mentioned that in your speech earlier, but could you just give an example to someone who might not know what does that type of partnership look like between these different government or a company?
Sure. So I can speak to one example from the United Nations Foundation, but there are many more operating directly with the UN and then other companies, for example, just doing their own work out there in the world. But we work particularly closely with Johnson & Johnson, for example. We've worked together for many years. I've personally worked with them for the last 5 years on a series of support that they've provided for children and mothers around the world to help families have better health outcomes. So through the Global Moms Relay and Johnson & Johnson's generous donations and public support for sharing stories and telling stories online, we've been able to raise funds to, for example, provide health messages to new mums in some tough spots in the world, and also while they're pregnant. So they might get them by text or voicemail, depending on the technology that they have access to. We've been able to provide vaccines, polio, measles vaccines in some key countries. We've been able to provide mosquito nets, particularly to refugee camps in sub-Saharan Africa. We've been able to get more girls in school by buying bicycles to help girls for whom transport is a real issue to make sure that they've got another way to get to school safely. And all kinds of other knock-on effects. For example, training health workers, particularly lady health workers in remote villages in Pakistan, where culturally it's really important that a woman attend a woman who's pregnant or having a child. And a NICU unit in Ethiopia that they've supported with neonatal resuscitation, training, et cetera, et cetera. So they're deeply involved in the health and well-being of families around the world, and we've just been proud to partner with them over the years. But there's many, many thousands of examples of companies stepping up and really diving into some of these solutions.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the UN with these goals it's kind of like a North Star way for companies in the world to follow. So do you think that there's still a need in the coming year, or do you think there will be an increasing amount of companies aligning themselves with these goals and incorporating that into their work?
Yeah, absolutely. Our big prediction at the UN Foundation is that the SDG icon, if you like, will become, or that certification, that commitment to implementing the Sustainable Development Goals in their businesses is going to become like a LEED certification is now in sustainable construction. It's really going to be important, and there's research out there on the business case that we can link to for readers, but there's such a huge opportunity for companies to solve some of these huge issues that the world is facing, for some key investments in sustainability, in healthcare, in clean cooking alternatives, in alternative energy solutions. There's some big bets to be placed. And frankly, as consumer behavior changes, so each one of us now has the opportunity, we have had for a long time, but now that we know more, we each have the opportunity to really change some of our behaviors. And so I think that's also going to inform companies' decisions about what they do and how they commit to the SDGs. As we change some of the ways we eat, as we change how we dress, as we look at more sustainable transport solutions, more sustainable living solutions for our cities, companies are going to have to step up, because consumer behavior, we will make choices with our wallets about how we want to spend our money.
Amazing. And there's some research out that says that consumers are increasingly wanting that from the businesses as well. So do you think that that's going to be helpful in incentivizing private companies to be aligning with that, both just on principle and that being great for the planet and for the company, but also from the consumer perspective as well?
Absolutely. And once we change our behaviors as consumers, we don't walk back from that, right? When you make a commitment to shift some of your consumption patterns, how you buy, how you eat, etc., that becomes a long-term thing. You're not going to walk away from that in an instant. And so absolutely, the private sector is watching and they're paying attention, and smart companies are diving in at the ground floor and really deepening their commitment to these issues and looking at how their businesses function around sustainability models, but then also how they spend their good philanthropy dollars.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it'll be interesting to see if a few bold, courageous companies who are sort of leading the way in those efforts to really publicly make a stance and demonstrate that they're doing these things. As when consumers finally find that they have an outlet through the different brands they like, it'll be really cool to see that but that opportunity applied to the rest of the companies in each of those different sectors. So that's really cool, because I feel like as consumers, the everyday people, they care a lot and they're looking for opportunities to contribute something. And if they're already going to be purchasing things, for the company to help take that extra leg and provide those gateways, once they get a taste of that, I feel like they won't want to go back to what you're saying.
That's exactly right.
So that leads me to my next question, which is, for people who aren't working in a purpose-driven company, or they they're a mom or they're someone who's a student still. What are some practical ways that people can get involved at this point?
So there's a few things that I like to start with. Firstly, once you know that the Sustainable Development Goals exist, tell someone about it. Because the fact that all 193 member states of the United Nations agreed to these goals means that all of our governments put their hand up and said, we commit to these goals. So they represent all of us. And each one of the 17 goals in some way, shape or form applies to all of us. So 17 can feel a little bit overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, tell someone the goals exist. Second of all, pick a goal or two where you feel called, where your heart connects. Maybe it's goal 4 around education. Maybe it's goal 2 around zero hunger. Maybe it's goal 5, gender equality. There are all kinds of ways that you can be sparked and have ideas around what it is that you might personally want to put your energy and time into. And then work towards finding a cause or a campaign that makes sense to you on that particular sustainable development goal and dive in and support them. If you can support them with your dollars, that's incredible. If you can support them with your time, that's incredible. If you can support them with your voice, with some social media advocacy, that's incredible. So, there's a lot of work to be done. There's plenty to go around. But please, we would encourage and exhort you to pick a place to start and get engaged. If you would like to get to some general knowledge and be involved in the SDG conversation around the world, there is the SDG Action Campaign that comes out of UNDP in the UN system. We'll put some link in the show notes, and that's a great place to start. And you can download the app. And if you've got a smartphone and have the SDG app on your phone, set up some notifications so that you get reminded to be a part of this conversation, to share things on social media, to engage your community, your family, your friends, your business associates, and be a part of it, because these are for all of us. They are our goals.
That's amazing. Let's see. For your mother,
yes,
and you are doing great work, do you have any encouragement for young women out there who either are just getting into their careers or they already are starting a family on ways that they can get involved within their family?
So I work a lot with mums. I run a community for the foundation called the Global Mums Challenge. This is a hard phase of life, particularly when the kids are really little, and so it may feel like, oh gosh, now I have to also care about the entire planet, right? Mm. But what I've learned is that motherhood is also a really key tipping point for connectedness. It's a unique opportunity where there are things that are really universal. There are ways that I can connect with a mother in Tanzania, in a remote rural area, who has a very different set of experiences and access to healthcare systems than I do. But we've got a new language that we can connect on, a new common ground through this universal experience of carrying a child, delivering a child, etc., etc. So it's an opportunity for hearts to be connected. It's an opportunity for us as a planet to be more deeply concerned about each other. And it's a chance where women open up to each other. So firstly, I would encourage mums, particularly new mums, to be open to that emotion and those feelings. And then just pick a place and a size of something that you can handle. And it's an overwhelming period of life, but you can send a quick email to a congressperson to say how you feel about the foreign affairs budget, for example, in your country. You can share something on your social media wall, or on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your Twitter. You can, if you've got some financial resources, you can donate to a cause or a campaign that you feel is really doing great work. So just start where you are, but allow those emotional connections to happen, because they're really powerful, and it's how we get better as a planet when we really start caring about each other. I always say there's no either or between caring about the child across the street and caring about the child across the world. Mm-hmm. They are not mutually exclusive propositions. It's on us to care about all, everywhere.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking this time to share with us about the work that you're doing and the ways that we can get involved. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and happy Giving Tuesday.
Thank you so much.